Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Laura, for those of you that do not know, and today we are going to be talking all things audiobooks. Now, I'm constantly being asked by you guys, Laura, do you read audiobooks? Laura, is this book available in audio? Constantly just getting questions all around about my opinions on audiobooks and where you guys can find good audiobooks, and today I'm here to answer all of those questions because, one, I do love audiobooks. In fact, I think that there are certain types of books where your reading experience truly becomes maximized from listening to it rather than just reading the pages. And I'm going to talk about today the books that I think fit that little niche market, the books that I think you should be listening to on audio in comparison to just reading it and why that is. However, before we get into all of that, I do want to say a humongous thank you to today's sponsor, which is super fitting, and that is Chirp Books, which is an amazing audiobook company here in the USA and Canada. They are a website where you can buy audiobooks without a membership, without a subscription. Super easy, and you can get amazing deals on this website, which is why I love it so much. I've been using Chirp for the past couple of weeks to listen to audiobooks, and I just really love their format. I've been using their app actually, which is super convenient, and I listen to books while I'm driving, while I'm at my desk, while I'm cleaning my room, while I'm cooking. I really like Chirp in particular because you don't need to have a membership or a subscription. Sometimes you just want to read one or two audiobooks and move on with your life. You don't want to be paying monthly fees, so that's why it's super convenient, and a lot of their books are really deeply discounted. You guys can see I just finished reading Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Mcquisten, and I finished that. Super great to listen to on audio. I really enjoyed that format for that book, and I'll get into why that is in a little bit. But that book is currently really discounted on the website, which I'll have everything linked down below. Chirp is also giving you guys a phenomenal discount code of 50% off. So when you use Lovely Like Laura 50 at checkout, you're gonna get 50% off your first purchase, which when you're buying an already really discounted book like this one, that's a great deal. You guys can see I'm also currently reading Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina, which I've really been enjoying. I like how this one has dual narrators. It's super fun to listen to, and I just love the format of the app, and you can also just shop on the website. Super easy. You can see that I gave this book 5 stars right there. Super cool, super easy to use, but I'm very happy they're giving you guys this discount because their books are already like a great deal in my opinion. So with the added discount, you're getting an even better price. To all of my Canadian and American friends, I highly recommend checking out Chirp, and you're gonna want it even more after finishing this video because I'm about to give you all my tips and tricks to the best audiobooks there are. So thank you again so much to Chirp for sponsoring this video, but for now, let's get into my recommendations. So as I was saying before, I truly think that there are certain types of books where your reading experience will be maximized when you listen to them versus just read them. The first instance of that I'm going to talk about using the example of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I just talked about reading, or listening to I should say, and I absolutely love listening to this book. I actually do own the paperback of it, but I decided to listen to it because I realized that this book is actually in third person, which is so interesting. I didn't expect it to be in third person. I was like having a little mini panic when I realized it was in third person because I am a first person gal. I love reading a book that's in first person. I just think it's super relatable. I love being in the character's head. I just like the pronouns better. Like, I just enjoy it. So when I see a book that's written in third person, I immediately start to panic a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if I can get into this. I don't know if I'll enjoy it as much. But listening to the audiobook versus having to read it, it felt so much more natural listening, and I'm not even saying that. Like, I really was able to fully immerse myself into this story listening to it as an audiobook versus if I were to try and read it, just because of that one little detail. So I swear if there's ever a book where you're like, I can't get into this point of view, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it, try it with the audiobook and see if that makes a difference, because I find that when you're listening to it instead of reading, it feels more like you're watching a video or you're listening to a podcast or something like that, or even like watching a movie. And there's just like a narration, and it was just easier for me to get into. So I really enjoyed reading this on audio versus just reading the paperback. I honestly don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I didn't listen to it. The next type of book that I highly recommend listening to on audio versus reading is one where you are really afraid of the page count. So has there ever been a time where you look up a book, it seems like something you really want to read, and then you get super scared when you find out that it's actually over 500 pages and you're like, I'm never going to be able to read that? Sometimes listening to it on audiobook will actually make it go by so much faster. Specifically speaking, a book that I love is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapita. This is a humongously intimidating book. It's like this big when you get the paperback. So if you're the type of person where that paperback would come in the mail and you would immediately be scared of it, I highly recommend just going and checking out the audiobook and seeing if you can get into it that way. I also really like that with audiobooks you can often change the speed of the narrator. Like you can do that on the Chirp app in particular. You can change it so that you're listening to it at 1.5 instead of just 1, and then it ends up also being a little bit shorter. So I highly recommend that. You can listen throughout the day. It'll make the book go by really fast and you won't even realize that it was a 600-page book to begin with. Another type of book that I highly recommend listening to on audio are any type of self-help nonfiction books. I find that it's like really hard for me to sit down and physically read a self-help book. I just kind of get lost in the pages and I don't even know what I'm reading anymore. But whenever I've listened to them, I find that I really absorb the information and end up loving the books. A specific recommendation I have for this one is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondu. This is a book that I read in January. I listened to the whole audiobook and I just fell in love with this book, and it talks about organizing your home and how to kind of become more cleanly and more organized, and it made me literally want to throw away like everything in my house and just clean everything. And I really just enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the message, and I don't think I would have nearly enjoyed it as much if I had physically read it. It's just harder for me to read those types of books. I don't know why, but when I'm listening, again, it kind of sounds like a podcast or it sounds like a TED Talk. It's like I feel the impact more when I'm listening versus when I'm reading books like that. So if there's ever been a self-help book that you're like, that looks really interesting, but I don't know if I would truly ever sit down and read it, try putting it on audiobook, listening to it while you're taking a drive, listening to it while you're doing laundry, things that you just already have to do, but you could listen to a book. Highly recommend. Similarly, I highly recommend trying to listen to memoirs if there's ever been a memoir that you're interested in. This one in particular I really love. It's called My Part-Time Paris Life by Lisa and Selmo. This is a book that I listened to a few years ago, but I absolutely loved it. And again, it's the type of book that I would truly never pick up and read the physical book of, but getting to listen to it was such a cool experience. And I also really liked that this one was narrated by the author herself, so she can add her own little personal flair throughout the storytelling. And I just really enjoy it. It kind of brings me back to listening to people read to you when you're a kid, to hear somebody kind of explain stuff that they've been through, and hearing it and just hearing it in their own voice especially, I think is just really meaningful. This book follows a woman who moves to Paris part-time and gets an apartment there despite like everybody in her life thinking she's crazy for it. It's something that she really wanted to do and she pursues it, and I just really enjoyed listening to it. Again, I would have never picked this up and read the physical book. That's just me. Going off of memoirs, another recommendation I have is anytime that you can listen to the book read by the author. I think that's just such a fantastic experience. So whether it be a fiction or a nonfiction book, I think it's really fun to get to hear the author of whatever you're reading physically read it to you. I think that's so fun. An experience like this that I've had was reading I've Got This Round by Mamrie Hart. If you guys don't know Mamrie, she's actually a YouTuber and she does comedy content, so I think she's just so funny. And it's, you know, it's funny to read a book that has comedy in it, but when you're truly listening to the comedian tell the jokes over audio, I swear it makes it like 20 times funnier. So if there's ever been like a book by a comedian that you like, highly recommend looking if there's an audiobook. Oftentimes they do have an audiobook and they've read it themselves. So I did listen to this one read by Mamrie, and I swear it makes it funnier, it makes it more enjoyable, and I highly recommend doing that if you can. I really enjoyed that experience. Similarly with the way that I wouldn't really go out of my way to physically read a memoir or a self-help book, I also have difficulty reading books that are just kind of out of my comfort zone genre-wise. You guys know I'm a really big romance reader, but sometimes when there's a book that's like fantasy or sci-fi or dystopian, something that's kind of just not what I normally read, it oftentimes leads to a reading slump or leads to me not being able to finish the book for some reason, just because oftentimes the writing style is different. It's authors that I haven't read from before, and I just don't end up getting enthralled in them as much as I wish to. So I highly recommend, if there's a book out there that's kind of something different for you, something you haven't really tried or dipped your toes in genre-wise, possibly listening to it as an audiobook will make it an easier ride for you than if you were to physically read it. I highly recommend listening to books like The Selection or Shatter Me on audio. I think that they're really fun and they include a decent amount of world building that oftentimes gets overlooked when you're reading it yourself. Sometimes when you're hearing it and you're hearing somebody describe how the world is, describe what's going on in this kind of different setting that you're not used to, it's a little bit easier to absorb. So I recommend that if you're reading something that is just not really sticking. Sometimes the audiobook will be better. I feel like we all have those instances where you're reading a page and you're just like not absorbing a single thing on the page. You're like rereading the same paragraph again and again and nothing's clicking. Sometimes you just need an audiobook and you'll just feel a lot better with that. My last audiobook recommendation is kind of specific, but it's to listen to audiobooks when there are specific audio elements included in that story. So my example is Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I really, really love this book. It's one of my all-time favorites, audiobook or not. However, one of the leads in this book is a musician, and Colleen Hoover actually got a musician in real life to record the songs that she wrote for this book. So I think it would be a really cool and immersive experience to listen to the audiobook, and then when the songs come up, to listen to the songs that Colleen Hoover got Griffin Peterson to record. I just think that would be such a cool experience, and I haven't done it yet, but I really want to. I think it's a lot more fun than just like reading and then like popping on the song when you get to the song. Like, to truly be listening to the whole thing, it's almost like watching a movie. So I think that would just be such a trippy experience and really, really fun. I can't think of any other books that have like a audio element that would go and complement the book, but if you guys have any, definitely let me know. But it's definitely a recommendation I have for this book in particular if you're looking to just listen to an everyday romance book, Maybe Someday, and listening to the album in tandem, I think would be such a fun experience. You'll have to let me know if you try it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little guide, so to speak, of my audiobook reading habits and recommendations. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below if you've not already. I definitely want to know what you guys think about audiobooks in a comment down below. Are they something that you reach for often, or are you more of a physical book reader? Are there certain books that you read on audio versus physical? Definitely let me know all the things down below. I'm so curious. And again, to all of my Canadian and American viewers, definitely go check out Chirp Books down below and use that 50% off code LOVELYLikeLara50. You are not going to regret it. I think it's just such a great deal, and there's so many audiobooks on this website. I'll have a list of my favorites down below. Go check that out. Go treat yourself to an audiobook. But other than that, thank you guys all so much for watching this video. I will be back very soon with another one, and I will see you then. Bye!